Hi, I'm Matt from Tubby Tarot, and you're watching Book Chat. Hi, welcome back. Today I want to share with you a couple of books that I thought were written by men. Of course, they were not written by men, they were actually written by women. Okay, so I'm going to spring right into it with a very, very well-known classic author called George Eliot. Now, when I first heard of George Eliot, I actually thought he was George, Of course, I was never really into George Eliot because I found Silas Marner and Middlemarch, which are really the only two books of his that I've read. I found them incredibly dry, incredibly boring. I thought he was awful. A couple of years ago, I actually discovered that George Eliot is not a man. George Eliot is actually Mary Ann Evans. Mary Ann Evans wrote this book wrote her books under the name of a pen name of George Eliot, because in those days it was easier to get your writing published if you were a man during the Victorian era. Now there's a book that I read many years ago, and I was very passionate about this book because it's about the continent that I live on, and the book is called Out of Africa. It was made into a lovely movie with, I think it was Meryl Streep. And of course this book was written by Isaac Denison. Who is this author? So I went online and I checked, and actually Isaac Denison is a woman called Karen Blixen. And Karen Blixen, she came to Africa and she went around Africa, and she wrote this book about her travels in Africa. And it's a really, really good book. It's a really cool book. If you want to know anything about Africa and you want to see a romanticized version of Africa, please read this book. It's actually by Karen Blixen, but when you buy the book is written by Isaac Denison. All right, now, I was online researching this a little bit, and I came across a book called The Cuckoos Calling, and it's written by a guy called Robert Galbraith. Anyway, I went and tried to find more books by Robert Galbraith, and there's nothing. Robert Galbraith wrote this one book. Of course, there is no such person as Robert Galbraith. Hold your breath, people. Robert Galbraith is actually J.K. Rowling. Yes, that J.K. Rowling. The Harry Potter J.K. Rowling. She wrote all Harry Potter books. But go and look it up on Google or Wikipedia or whatever. The story is pretty interesting, so just go and have a look at it. It's pretty interesting why she did this. Okay. Now the other one, I'm not too sure if I'm just like losing my mind, or if a lot of you also thought the same way that I thought. There's a very famous author called P.D. James, and P.D. James wrote a lot of books that are like Agatha Christie type books, but more modern. And of course, I automatically assumed that P.D. James was a man, because most male authors, or a lot of male authors, use their initials and then their surname, like P.D. James. Male authors do this, so I immediately assumed that P.D. James was a male author. Of course, P.D. James is not a male author. She is, and I'm going to read this, she is Phyllis Dorothy James, and she is Baroness James of Holland Park, OBE. She's a pretty classy dame, okay? Or she was a pretty classy dame. And I did not know that. I had no idea about that. And I don't know if you guys actually knew that P.D. James was a woman. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to ruin your childhood for you, because I want to tell you about the Hardy Boys. Now, the Hardy Boys, I'm sure everybody knows about the Hardy Boys. Really cool adventure series for children, has been translated into a gazillion languages. And these books were amazing. They were about these two brothers who would go out and they would solve all these mysteries. And they were all written by a guy called Franklin W. Dixon. Franklin W. Dixon is not one person. The Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew books, I might point out, are all written by many different people. They are written by a group of people who work for a publishing house that publish these books, and they all write different books. So there could be 4 different storybooks going on at the same time, being written at the same time. So there, your childhood has been destroyed. I'm Matt from Tubby Tarot. You've been watching Book Chat. I will expect you right here, same place, same time, next Thursday.